Hey everyone, here we go. Back to the abominables. Con, curled up in the front, in the cab in the front, was having a most peculiar dream. He dreamed that a large and rather loopy-looking gnu was looking at him at the lorry window. Making an effort, he opened his eyes and stretched. A large and loopy-looking gnu was looking at the lorry window. Goodness, said Con, but before he could explore further, Perry came back from the all-night garage carrying a mended pup. The place has gone mad, he said. There's a tree cloth hanging from the lamppost, a couple of kangaroos are window shopping in the square, and, he broke off, good Lord, look at the zoo. In silence, Perry and the children stared across the little park at the broken fences, the shattered buildings. It's an earthquake, do you think? Asked Ellen, who had only just woken to find who was still rather muddled. Or terrorists letting off bombs, suggested Con. But before they could decide how the zoo had gotten to the state it was, there was an agitated scrambling from the container, and when Con cautiously opened the door, all 5 Yetis stood looking out at him, beaming with pride and joy. We did it! It's a surprise for you! We let out the animals, every single one, said Ambrose the abominable. There was a moment of total silence while Con took this in. Oh no, you didn't. Say you didn't, he begged. But we did. All the animals were sad, so... Con's face had turned ashen. He had begun to tremble. Don't you see? It's a crime. Breaking up people's property, smashing things. As soon as the Sultan gets to hear of it, he'll send his soldiers with machine guns. You'll be mown down. You'll be... But Perry now came to the rescue. We're only 100 miles from the border, he said, and the Sultan can't touch us once we're across. The pump's mended. No one's about yet. We have a good chance of making a getaway. And a few seconds later, the door shut on the bewildered Yetis, and the yellow lorry was roaring out of the city. 100 miles in a slow and overload lorry can seem like a desperately long way. Every motor horn, every train whistle made the children jump as they imagined the Sultan's men coming to round up the Yetis or torture them or simply shoot them out of hand. But the Sultan did not come that day, or any other day, and that was because, by evening, the city of Aslafan had no longer had a Sultan. What happened was this. On the morning that the yellow lorry left Aslafan, the cruel and greedy little Sultan woke up in his huge gold and turquoise bed, as he did every day, stretched his fat little arms as he did each day, and thought of the nice things he was going to do, like watch a public execution, have some journalists flogged because they dared to criticise him in the newspaper, and arrange a hunt in which a herd of exquisite fallow deer would be gunned down from his private fleet of helicopters. Then, as he did every day, he rang for his servants, but after that, things happened differently. Because what came into the room was not his barber to shave him, or his valet to dress him, or a footman carrying the 6 fried eggs he always ate for breakfast. It was a hippopotamus. Help! Screamed the Sultan. Help! Help! He reached for the bell rope and pulled it again. Only it was not the bell rope. It was the tail of an enormous boa constrictor, which now fell in a hissing and annoyed heap onto the Sultan's embroidered counterpane. Ah! Yelled the Sultan. He leaped out of bed and rushed for the nearest door, which led into his lapis lazuli and marble bathroom. I don't even know what that word means. Lapis lazuli. Anyway, sitting quietly in the middle of the bath was a huge, whiskery, and very wrinkled walrus. It's a plague! It's a plague of animals! The gods have decided to punish me! Yelled the Sultan, who had read about the great plagues of Egypt, when Jehovah had sent locusts and frogs and flies to punish the wicked ruler who had been cruel to his people. As the terrified Sultan ran through the corridors of his palace, he saw more and more signs that the gods were out to get him. An orangutan was sitting on the imperial throne, dreamily cracking fleas between his teeth. Here's a picture here. A proud ostrich had just laid an egg on the grand piano in the music room. The 3 armadillos were bulldozing their way across the table in the state dining hall. Still in his pajamas, the fat little man reached the main courtyard. There was no sign of his servants or his soldiers, who had all fled when the animals invaded the palace. But standing by the fountain, looking at him through the golden, serious eyes, were 2 very stripy tigers. Rah! The Sultan waited no longer. With a scream of terror, he turned and ran on, through his terraced garden and private parks and pleasure pavilions, on until he came to the brown bare hills that surrounded the city. And there he fell on his knees and beat his head against the earth and asked the gods to forgive him for his sins. And the next day he put on his sacking robe and went to live in a cave, where he spent the rest of his life gabbling prayers and fasting so that he would get to heaven in the end. And so the hated sultan was seen no more. And in the city of Aslihan, there was a feasting and rejoicing and dancing in the streets. People hugged each other and lit off fireworks and threw open the doors of their cafes so that everyone could eat and drink their fill. The prisoners were let out of their dungeons and the sick were taken off the streets and cared for. But because it was the animals who had brought freedom to the people, the new government made a law that all animals that had escaped were to be guests of the city and not to be harmed. So for many months, while they built a new model zoo for those animals that preferred to live in town, you could see cars edging around giraffes dozing in the middle of the road, barbers politely shaving wildebeest who had wandered into their shop, or old ladies giving lifts to porcupines in their shopping baskets. Nor did anyone ever find out who had freed the animals. True, Mr. Bullaby had babbled something about furry giants with bed socks around their necks and Queen Victoria on their stomachs. But when people talk like that, there is only one thing to do. Take them to some nice, quiet hospital and shut them up until they're better. And that is exactly what the people of Aslihan did. That's the end of the chapter. Now, at the very start of my reading today, we talked about an animal. I'll just go back to it. It's called a gnu. G-N-U. I don't know what a GNU is, so I would like you to tell me what is a GNU. That is your question for today. I'm looking forward to finding out. Thanks, guys.